Well, the Tampa Bay Rays take 2 of 3 from the Detroit Tigers on the road. So decent enough showing over the weekend.
Successful road trip. They win every single series. We're going to talk about why that is meaningful, and we're going to talk about friends of the pod and what they're doing. So let's talk about that right now.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
And we are the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your very first listen every day. Be sure to check out and subscribe channel at Locked On Rays. You can also find us on social media at Locked On Rays and email us anytime with your mailbag questions, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Well, like we mentioned, the Tampa Bay Rays take 2 of 3 from the Detroit Tigers. They won on Friday by a score of 8-0, lost on Saturday 4-2, and then came back on Sunday winning 10-6. Ulises, there was a lot that happened over the course of the weekend, not just between the Rays and Tigers, but across baseball. So with that, what are your takeaways and observations from the Saturday, Sunday, and Friday that was?
Well, first of all, just looking at the big picture, this was exactly what this team needed and what the fandom needed. A strong showing back-to-back series. They hadn't won back-to-back series since like June. Yeah. Okay. So this was very important to get that stink of July out of your, out of the car. Get that stink out of the car and keep moving forward. And that's exactly what they did. They did it with Houston. They did it with the Yankees, and now with Detroit. And now Detroit might have been the most pivotal because what you had already done with the Yankees and the Astros, because you can't win a series. You shouldn't be winning series against the Astros and the Yankees and then have a letdown series to finish up the road trip. Like you got to keep going. And that Sunday game, that's exactly what happened. You saw the guys come back. Well, not come back, but because they were never under in the scoreboard. But when the Tigers threatened to get close to the game, the Rays offense kept adding on. And that's something that we hadn't seen, Kevin, in a very, very long time, which was very much needed.
Yeah, it seemed like in that Tigers series, the Rays got production and contributions pretty much all across the board, and we saw some encouraging signs offensively, defensively, and pitching-wise as well. I mean, you had guys like Randy Arozarena, just the defense, quite frankly. The defense really seemed to come through. The heads-up play. Manny Margot, we were talking about, hey, if and when the Rays will trade him due to his salary, just making multiple plays out in right field. And this is just talking about the course of the series. Luke Raley, outfield assist. Randy Arozarena getting a double play after a catch. Curtis Mead, a slick play at third, backhand, hard throw to first. I know there had been questions about his arm strength. Well, it seemed to be fine in that long throw. So there were just good signs from that regard. And then we saw some power strokes for multiple guys as well, including Jose Siri and Yandy Diaz and Isaac Paredes, Brandon Lau, Wander Franco. In fact, Brandon Lau's homer might have been the most impressive because he took a breaking ball to the deepest part of the ballpark with ease. Like that swing almost coming off the bat, it's like, oh, that might just be a pop fly, but it had enough carry to get out of there. And then just in general, we've talked about this before, putting the ball in play, so important, and making the infield make a play, whether it's, a fielder's choice and you get a run in, or you put the ball in play and you do everything you can to force an error or get to first, whatever it may be.
And it happened exactly on Sunday with that dribbler to Ibanez, and then he couldn't make the play because he was thinking already 2 in the bag before even getting to the ball. So exactly, just putting the ball in play makes good things happen. You mentioned my main takeaway in passing. That Randy Arozarena play was huge. That double play. Yeah, I know the run scored. That's minute, because who was on the mound was Colin Poche, and I think he flies under the radar. I think Rays fandom, I think, has put him in the I don't want to talk about Poche list,
right?
Because he's had a few moments where the opposition has gotten the best of him. But if you look at his season, I'm liking his season. But the last 9 times that he's been out there, 7 of them have been scoreless of his own doing. Any base runners that he's had, 0 scoreless, 7 out of his last 9. And then yesterday on Sunday, it was even more impressive because it was his longest outing of the year at 1 2/3. He faced 6 batters and struck out 2 and did not allow a run. And that was very much needed because you're in a game where you wake up and you say, oh, Tyler Glasnow is on the mound. And you get to the ballpark, and everything's fine. And then you're like, oh, no, Tyler Glass is not on the mound today. So all hands on deck. Erasmo's going to take the ball. By the way, Erasmo, good job, man. Just terrific. Just he's such a plug and play guy. Like, he has a rubber arm. Fantastic to see him still.
Right. You can put him pretty much in any situation. And look, he's not going to win any Cy Youngs or make any All-Star appearances, but he's a warm live arm that can at least post for you. So in the Rays, he is a known quantity for the Rays and vice versa. And I think that's starting to show a little bit more, as I think the Rays claimed Cole Sulser off waivers or are planning to do that. So that is something I think we're starting to see more and more across baseball. We saw at the trade deadline where so many teams, playoff contending teams, went and got after players that they previously had on their roster who had success on their roster. And Cole Sulser is a guy that, anything can happen. You fall in hard times. You've shown you have that track record. Maybe you can get it back again. So that's something to go forward. And I'm glad you brought up Tyler Glasnow because it's just everything's concerning about the starting pitching staff all of a sudden. At this point, with what's going on with McClanahan, what's going on with Glasnow, what has happened to Rasmussen and Springs and others on the docket, I'm getting to the point where let's not talk about, oh, is this the best, strongest, most intimidating rotation? Let's not talk about that in March, April, May, June, July, August. I want to wait until like late September before we start having conversations about what is the strongest rotation going into the playoffs, or a team's strongest rotation, because you got to get there first with these guys. It's
such a jinx, man. And I know, the spreaders of toxicity by positivity would just clap along and say, well, injuries happen, so that means that next year injuries won't happen. No, that doesn't mean that at all. You can't. If you saw last year, how many injuries did the Rays have this year? Same or even more injuries. So no, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't, just because you have injuries one day doesn't mean that it'll regress. Like that has no correlation at all whatsoever. So yeah, it is concerning that Shane McClanahan, after about a week of not pitching, he's still seeing second, third, fourth opinions. We all know what this means, I think. Not a doctor, but we've seen enough baseball to know when you don't really say what's the problem, and then you go to 2-3 guys to get. I mean, do we not remember what happened with Springs and Rasmussen? Wasn't that the same kind of situation? Not really saying a lot, seeing 2 to 3 doctors, and then waiting about a week to say, hey, yeah, this is what's happening. So that sucks about McClanahan if it's going to turn out the same story. And then Glasnow, the back spasms, seems to be a very minor issue. Cash, his body language and the quotes seem to be like, hey, he's going to be pitching against the Cardinals, so everything's fine. That's all good and dandy. So hopefully that's just a what is it? A factor of just being a 6'8", 6'9" behemoth of a man that, you're just going to have back spasms here and there. Yeah, so hopefully those two things get resolved. Much rather see Glasnow and McClanahan in the playoffs than Taj Bradley, any rookie for that matter. We have more to discuss, but first we have to tell you about Dave. Finances
can be so intimidating. That's why you need Dave. Dave can make managing your money so much easier with an interest-free extra cash advance, fee-free goal tracking, and easy ways to find a side hustle to make more money. Dave is the banking app that's leveling the financial playing field. We like that. When you download Dave, you could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees, none of that. It's part of Dave's extra cash account. Advance the money you need with no interest and then settle up later. Extra cash gives you more money to buy groceries, fill your tank, finally get your car repaired, or catch up on bills without having to wait for your next paycheck. You can even build credit when you settle up on time. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to make their finances easier. So if you're in a pinch, can help you need Dave. So one more time, I'll say it again. Download Dave today at dave.com/MLB. That's dave.com/MLB, where you could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. Okay, getting to my takeaway or observation, we mentioned briefly Curtis Mead making his big league debut, Rays debut as well. Same for Aaron Savali, not making his big league debut, but Rays debut. So that was nice to see. Unfortunately, Jake Rogers and Jake Rogers alone got the best of Aaron Savali, seemingly. But Curtis Mead, I'll just ask you, Ulises, your initial interpretations of what he showcased over the 3-game series.
Well, it was just very exciting to see him on the field and wearing that Rays uniform. You never know when somebody can get packaged like Kyle Manzardo did to Cleveland. So to see a guy go through all the steps in the minors with the Rays and then get his big leagues debut is great. Now, he has also a wrinkle, which is that he's from Australia. So, of course, yes, you know, his family and friends have a very long flight to get to Detroit. I think they said like 33 hours, which is insanity to just out of a drop. Like you get the call on Friday and and Kevin, you're in Tampa and you're like, hey, I need you to go to Thailand. Like get a flight to Thailand today. Like that's the kind of, you know, it must have been, you know, very hectic, but very wonderful for his family and friends. So talking about baseball now, the throws, I know that's been like the major, you know, negative thing that they've talked about him with the glove, the defensively, like the arm is not strong enough. Yeah. I understand what they're saying after seeing, you know, video is not as efficient to determine that than the actual game time. You know, right. You can see clips and it's not the same, but when you're watching it in real time in the game, I understand what the prospect writers have said about his arm. Why would you care if the play is made though?
Right.
If the play is made, like, why does it matter if it's not a cannon or if it's just a lob? Like the play was made. I don't care how the out is pretty or not. Not everybody has to have a cannon like Nolan Arenado and Manny Machado.
Right.
So, like Zobrist, Joe Madden used to say he has no chrome. Is the play getting made? The play's getting made. So I didn't see anything wrong with it. And, you know, okay, he's got 10 plate appearances, 1 hit. Right. That's completely fine. It's his debut.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You got to give these guys time, and couldn't have been easy to have to deal with all the travel and the emotions and the hype. And it's, you know, one day you get that call and you got to be ready immediately to perform at the highest stage. But he did get his first career hit. He did, like I mentioned on Saturday, have that slick backhanded play and throw to first. I don't think anybody's going to, you know, confuse him with Evan Longoria, but I like the batting stance and the approach at the plate. And that's his calling card there. It's not about his speed. It's not about his defense. It's not about his arm strength. I know he does things with the glove a little bit unorthodox, but I think he can eventually get there. But I feel like it's easier to teach some defensive tools than some hitting tools. So that is where the money is going to be made, and that's where he's going to make his impact, is the feel for contact and power. And we look at the stat line. This is a bad joke, but it seems like he did more over the course of the 3-game series than Vidal Brujan has done in his entire time with the Rays. So, all joking aside, I think Mead is definitely going to contribute in a significant way to this team. I don't know if it's going to be this year. We see how, I guess, was it said by Cash that he's really only going to start against lefties and then he might get some garbage time against righties. Well, I guess we'll see how that keeps up and continues based on injuries and health. But it's been a long time coming for Curtis Mead. He's worked really hard. He's still extremely young, but we've been talking about Curtis Mead since 2019, 2020, seemingly, or whenever that trade was made back in the day.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So no, it's awesome, and what it means for Australian baseball to have an everyday player who is going to be an everyday player. Maybe right now it's going to be off and on, but he will be an everyday player for the Rays, and that means a lot for Australian fans, Australian baseball. So that's awesome to see. Yeah. I do want to just mention something. To anti-social media is such a great. It's such a great moniker
resource
you've put on there. A few weeks ago, I put hey, Jonathan Aranda needs to be up. This is ridiculous what this guy's doing. And then all the seal clappers came at me saying, well, you can't just, if you don't have Walls, Vidal Brujan is the backup shortstop. I was like, okay, put Isaac Paredes at short as a defensive, as a second shortstop. I don't care. I would rather see Isaac Paredes at shortstop as a backup shortstop than having to see Vidal Brujan take at bats. If that's the decision that needs to be made, I would rather see Isaac Paredes at shortstop in a pinch than a Vidal Brujan at bat. And they were like, oh, you can't do that. The Rays would never do that. Check the roster right now. No Walls, no Brujan. They called Mead up. Who do you think is the backup shortstop? It's probably Isaac Paredes. So seal clappers, stop it. Get some help. Okay? It's fine to look at a bigger picture. Touch grass. Stop looking at the spreadsheet so much. Yeah. It's bad for the eyes. Just a little bit.
All right. That aside, a quick thing on Curtis Mead here. So are you saying that Jonathan Aranda is trade bait this offseason and that they tried to move him
unless an injury happens?
Yeah.
Well, we really haven't seen anything with Walls. So maybe that could open a lane for him if the injury lingers too much, that they might want to keep him. But if not, looks like, this is as high a value as you're going to see from Jonathan Aranda. What else does he need to do?
Yeah.
In AAA, nothing. He's done everything.
Then you take the risk of calling him up and he goes, hits 140 over, 80 at bats or whatever. And then what do you got for trade value going forward? Curtis Mead, quick over unders here.
Ooh.
10 years in the bigs over under. Or 9.5 years in the bigs, I should say. Over under.
I want him to get his pension. I'm going over.
Okay. Over under 14.5 career WAR.
Okay, 14.5 over. If I'm saying that he's going to have a 10-year career, at least a 10-year career, he needs to be at 1 point. Yes, over.
Over under 149.5 homers.
If he's going to have 10, he needs to be around 15 to do that. Injuries happen. I'm going under.
Okay. Over under 269.5 career batting average.
This is his hit tool. This is the thing. I'm going over.
Okay. Over under 1,399.5 hits.
Under.
Okay. Over under, this is the final one, 1.5 all-star appearances.
Can he be a 2-time all-star? I think he can be. And he's young enough. Dude's 22. I'm going over.
Okay, fair. Again, context matters. We have to be realistic about all these things. We've heard so much about Curtis Mead. over the years, we read so much and watch highlights and clips of Curtis Mead. The story's great, but the idea or the expectation that he's going to walk in and then 10 years from now, 15 years from now, he's going to be a, 38, 40 career WAR player is just highly unrealistic. But what you laid there is a solid career where you can make millions upon millions of dollars and be set for life. And that's really all you can ask for at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. What else do you need after that, right? I mean, that's the big point. You provide for your family and for the family members you don't even have right now that'll come up in the future. So yeah, that's cool. Did you disagree with any of the ones I said, over or under?
No, I think that's pretty much on the mark. I mean, I kind of brought up those over unders just based on that's kind of where I was looking at. So It's none of them that I would say, oh my gosh, this guy's going to have way more or way less than what you suggested there. So
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes in life we're faced with tough choices and the path forward isn't always clear. Whether you're dealing with decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy can always help you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. If you're thinking of starting therapy, you got to give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. I've told you guys before, the app is super easy to use, and it makes it really accessible to get therapy done. You can fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime with no additional charge. It's sometimes difficult to build rapport with somebody that you don't have a lot in common with, so you can always change therapists with no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. Now, a fight happened in Cleveland between Tim Anderson and Jose Ramirez. Did you get a chance to hear the call from the Cleveland Guardians radio host?
I believe Tom Hamilton. Yes, it was spectacular, and that gentleman should be hired to call boxing and or UFC matches as well. That should be on his demo tape, and his agents should be sending it to various outlets. Heck, do WWE while you're at it as well.
Amazing. Down goes Anderson. I mean, just such a great callback to.
Yeah, what's amazing is that like he was almost cared for it. Like he had some, hey, I know what to do if a brawl breaks out. I've got the setup. I've got the punchline. I'm ready to go. Because in my situation, if I was calling that game, which I never would be, but I would almost be like in shock and all, like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
But he was like, he just went with the flow.
It was remarkable, but because if you see that clip, then you can design a little script for it, and but that was off the dome, man. That's pretty cool that he was able to come up with that. Very cool. The fight itself, man. Look, I'm sorry. Tim Anderson can do whatever he wants for the rest of his career. He can do whatever he wants. He's now joined Robin Ventura and Jose Bautista as this is the first thing we're going to think about.
Exactly. 100%. And that's
I'm sorry.
Yeah. He cannot live this down, and you can't go out on social media and say round two, or if this, a different situation. No, you got dropped. That's it. And now, and what's funny is like Tim Anderson is known as a talker. He's not having a good season this year, but you just need to shut up for the rest of your career because you got played by Jose Ramirez, who to me seems like it just goes about his business guy and doesn't talk much, plays awesomely, is one of the more underrated players, I think, in all of baseball, one of the most well-rounded and talented players in all of baseball. And Tim Anderson wanted the smoke, and he got the smoke. And he will not be able to live this down. And what's so funny is like Tim Anderson was so gung-ho to fight and putting the hands up, and Jose Ramirez just dropped him. And it's funny because like I was joking about, hey, there's another fight going on that night, a legitimate fight, but this is the one to me that got more attention and got more play. So as much as I dislike the idea of professional athletes that aren't fighters to be fighting, this did put MLB on the map and got some widespread attention. I mean, the amount of non-baseball and non-sports fans who watch this clip has to be exponential, and maybe it turns a baseball fan or two. And when we hear of baseball fights, it's very rarely the Robin Ventura, Jose Bautista variety. It's get up, the dugout's clear, there's some pushing and shoving, maybe a headlock here and there, but it's not like a mano-a-mano one-on-one like it was there. So that was something special in its own right. And
you can't, and what you said, you can't ask for round two. You can't go to Twitter after and like act like you didn't. You asked for this. You squared up.
Yeah.
You were the one that asked for this, and then you're a guy that hits righty, throws righty, and then you set up as a lefty to box. So you've never done this before. If you've never done that before, why are you asking for the fight? And then you just got dropped, man. And then you got the jelly legs getting off the field. I don't know if you saw that too.
Didn't he have to be carried off by one of his cohorts, more or less?
Yeah, I think Vaughn was the one that picked him up. But like getting out of the melee, he was jelly legs, man. And with Clevenger behind him and people surrounding him, like just not a good look for Tim Anderson. And unfortunately, now he's joined that storied Robin Ventura, Jose Bautista type of memory. Like you're not going to live that down. And the problem with this is, he had his moment. Remember that Field of Dreams game and the comeback home run, the walk-off? That was great. That was fantastic. Like, that's the thing you thought about Tim Anderson, even if it was a bad season like it was for him in 2023 or like it is in 2023. Now it's this, and that sucks, man. Yeah,
and what's crazy, just anecdotally, man, Tim Anderson is just he's fallen off the map this season, and well, I guess he was hurt last season as well. But he's such a talented ball player, and to be resorted to this, and if you look at his social media, it's just really odd what's going on here. I guess when something like that happens to you, but with the whole fight breakdown, in a vacuum, if I was to look at the build and physique of Tim Anderson compared to Jose Ramirez, and I say Tim Anderson is leaner, significantly taller. Jose Ramirez, he's kind of an unassuming guy. You wouldn't think that, he's 5'8", 5'9", a little pudgy, that Tim Anderson would have the edge in a match like that. But it doesn't matter how you look. It matters how you can throw hands at the end of the day. You see that a lot of times where, boxing, UFC, a guy, oh my gosh, he looks like he was carved by Michelangelo himself, and he gets dropped very easily. So that happens as well.
And again, like if this is the thing though, why did you ask for the fight if you don't even know how to set up for who you are?
Yeah.
I that's the thing that I don't understand. Like, why? Like, is your ego so bruised? Is it so fragile that you knowingly know that you don't know how to, like, no way he thinks he knows how to box. No way he thinks he knows how to fight if he sets up as a lefty when he's a righty. Like, that's like 101 foundational of fighting. Like, so yeah, very odd, very weird. I know this is not a Rays thing, but I thought it was.
I've got a little Rays comp here. Out of all the players on the Rays active roster, who would you least want to square up with? YouTube commenters, hit it up.
Oh, I like that.
Ulysses, do you have an answer? I think you want to save it until next episode. We could do that.
I think the easier answer would be Yandy. But yeah, maybe we save it for that. I want to see what let's see what the YouTube comments come through. Maybe there's some boxing experts out there. That might be a little fun segment for the next episode. So there's quite the candidates, I would say, for various reasons. So
We'll leave it at that. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of, brawls,
of course,
in professional sports leagues, but something like this, it gives baseball a little bit of a jolt. So you got to kind of take it from what it is and go from there. If it was, I would have been very curious to see what kind of play this would have gotten in the middle of college football season, NFL season. Well, I guess, since it happened on a Saturday, that, college football would be going on. Like, how much of an impact in a dent in the online landscape would it have made then, when you have a huge sport going on simultaneously. So, all right, that'll be something that we briefly mention on tomorrow's show as well. In the meantime, thank you for making us your very first listen every day. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.